For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
You are on StratNews Global. I'm Nitin Gokhale, and I'm standing in for my colleague Amitabh Revi, who's a regular anchor for Talking Point. On Talking Point this week, we have a special guest from the United States, Vivek Lall, who is the Chief Executive of the General Atomics Global Corporation, but more importantly, a member of the Quad Investors Network nominated by the White House to be a part of the technology network that Quad member countries are trying to proliferate and then take it forward. Also, an important member of the USIBC or the US-India Business Council board member there, and someone who is well known in India for his technology inputs into various countries and various companies that he's worked for earlier, and a friend of India. So welcome, Vivek, for this program, and thank you for sparing your time.
Thank you very much, Nitin.
So, looking at segment-wise, let's look at technology as an important part of India-US relationship. ISET, or the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, started less than a year ago, but it seems to have gathered a lot of momentum. What explains this? Because you have dealt with India-US relationships, especially in defense, so please tell us.
Yes, so I think this time the effort that has gone in from the top leaderships of both countries to generate the momentum at various levels, but to include the businesses, has been phenomenal. I think the iSET top-down leadership, both in the US as well as in India, have resulted in some very tangible outcomes already in a very short period of time. And so I think the catalyst was, of course, the government-to-government discussion and the charter they had, the prescription they had. But what has happened very quickly is companies like ours have embraced it and actually formed those partnerships so that we can show early successes of what critical and emerging technology collaboration can look like now and into the future.
So, does it also help that the working level or the main leadership comes from the national security advisors on both sides, and also the White House therefore has a direct control in the US, and the Prime Minister's office in India has a direct bearing on what the decisions are taken. Does that help?
Yes, indeed. I think it is a great service that Prime Minister Modi and National Security Advisor Mr. Doval has done from the Indian side, as well as President Biden and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan from the US side, because I think they have put the right level of attention to this very, very important set of areas that both countries need to look at, like-minded countries with similar trajectories for technology development in the future, and a lot of complementarities. And I think unless they don't continuously drive it as they have, I don't think that there would have been this level of success.
That's true. Let's look at some of the segments. So you've been in the defense sector, at the high end of the defense sector, for quite some time. And earlier the thing was about G2G contracts, G2G dealings between the two defense ministries, Department of Defense and then Ministry of Defense in India. But one of the distinguishing features of iSET, if I can see it, is the involvement of the industry and the private sector on both sides, or the startups and innovators. Do you see that also?
Yes, absolutely. So I think defense innovation is one of the pillars of the iSET framework. I mean, there are others like semiconductors, there is 5G, 6G, there's rare earth elements, so various areas. But I think in each of the areas, since you have not only large industry, but you have medium, small, and startup communities all at the table with the governments, identifying where are the big rocks that one has to solve and make progress with. I think that has given a very different feel to this initiative, and therefore you're seeing a lot of partnerships, including, for example, we have partnered with an artificial intelligence company and a semiconductor company, and we have actually gone ahead and created joint products. Now that is something in this short span of time I have not seen in my dealings with the US-India corridor for the last 20, 30 years. So that is something very different.
Also, there is that element of upskilling some of the Indian entrepreneurs or even workers.
Correct.
I think LAM Research is supposed to do that. And from what one hears, they've already hit the ground running and started doing that.
Correct. Yeah. So human resources is a very critical part of this. And I think what is coming out of this is a recognition in the US industry in particular of the talent and the ambition of Startup India, which has, of course, been incubated very well in the last few years. And the number of startups and their global ambitions and the kind of the advisory group of people they can tap into is actually a global talent pool. And so human resources will be the key for innovation and upskilling. But it is not only a one-way street. It's not only US to India. I'm seeing a lot of India to US technology and talent. And in fact, some of the startups are getting contracts in the US with the US defense and other entities. So that's very encouraging.
That's quite a change from the earlier days when I think US companies had not looked for talent in India.
Correct.
They were only looking for the contracts from the Ministry of Defense earlier. I think that's quite a change, as you already pointed out. But broadening this a bit, there is also the Indus-X, which held its first meeting in DC in June when the Prime Minister was there. And you are a member of the USIBC board. Where is that initiative going?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be at the beginning meetings of both iCET as well as Indus-X. And I think in both formats, there has been, in Indus-X in particular, on the defense side, there has been, again, a real recognition of making the matches between where is the need and which companies can come to the fore and solve that problem or the solution that's needed. And expanding it out to beyond US-India, I think the Quad setup also has various initiatives. You mentioned at the beginning the Quad Investors Network. And I think some of the problems and challenges that are being faced by India and the US in terms of technology development or the opportunities rather, I think that's shared by all four countries.
So like you mentioned the four countries, is there any possibility of, say, trilateral kind of a project between the three or the four countries or sometimes even just two countries besides US and India, then coming into India and the US, say Japan and Australia collaborating and then doing something in either India or in the US. Is that something that can sort of take it forward? Are you part of those kind of discussions? Because you are one of those 5 or 6 people from the US nominated by the White House on that network. Do you see any possibility there?
Absolutely. I think in the next year or two, you'll see some more additional announcements in that regard where, it's not just the US-India corridor, but as and when the problem statement or the technology solution lends itself, it could be three countries, it could be 4 countries and so forth. And so whether we are talking about quantum, whether we are talking about artificial intelligence, whether we are talking about any of the defense innovation, verticals, I think depending on where the strengths are, where the funding is, and where the talent is, that can come together in any of these combinations.
Well, that's great to know because pooling together so many resources and technology and talent, I suppose, will be beneficial not just to these 4 countries, but to the independent or the democratic world, I suppose, going forward, because that's the idea. But let me move to your own company where you are the chief executive for the global corporation. And the AON for acceptance of necessity for the Predators to be bought by the Indian Armed Forces already through. So where is that process right now?
Yeah, so it's a government-to-government process, and we were very happy to see the announcement happen in June of this year, where both the governments have decided to pursue this. So yeah, we stand by to support both governments as they have their discussions for the 31 aircraft that you're talking.
So that process is on your side.
That's correct.
Okay. So, but GA, of course, is well known for the Predators or the armed UAVs or the Sea Guardians. But you also do a lot of other technology. Any other possibilities in India that you're looking at?
Yeah, so I think, we are basically, broadly speaking, in energy security or national security areas and technologies.
Mhm.
So in the Indian context, we have the electromagnetic launch and recovery systems that go in aircraft carriers. So if India in the future is looking at aircraft carriers with that type of requirement, like the U.S. government, the U.S. Navy has implemented in their aircraft carriers, that's one technology perhaps that's relevant. Then you may have seen recent statements by John Kerry and others on fusion, and the White House has had recent meetings on fusion being an important piece of the strategy for clean, limitless energy. We are, of course, a leader in that. In fact, the National Fusion Facility is on the campus at General Atomics in San Diego. So I think there is a potential scope of collaboration in fusion between U.S. and India. Then, of course, there are other areas like satellite, like Gulftronic, which is a electrostatic separator at the back end of refineries. There are a whole host of technologies where I think U.S. and India can collaborate on.
And that's a great thing to know because you mentioned aircraft carriers. The Navy chief in an interview to me just 2 weeks ago on the eve of the Navy Day mentioned the possibility of getting another aircraft carrier for the Indian Navy of pushing that case. So that's one possibility. Second, India, I think, is already talking about energy transition for the gigantic need that India has for its energy needs that it has for various sectors. I think that possibility is there. One final thought from you. You've seen the transition in the defense sector in India from just pure G2G to now in the past 10 years or so. G2G certainly, but along with inbuilt Make in India components, then trying to have joint ventures here. Does that really sort of force multinational companies like yours or others in the US or in the West to alter their policies, or they're happy to do this for India and because the market is big? How do you see that?
I think having observed the Indian landscape over the last several years, the amount of talent, the kind of resource pool available here, the kind of innovations that are happening at the right price points, by the way, that are globally recognized. I mean, India is landing on the moon, for example, at the price point that they did it. These are all very remarkable scientific and technological achievements. And therefore, I think industry at large benefit from collaborating with India. And so I think it's a great positive for companies, not only General Atomics, but other U.S. industry and frankly, the global industry, to work with India in a complementary way. Because, supply chains are global now. And it is whoever can leverage the best of each will be able to succeed in the future.
So the future is certainly upbeat and bright as we see it. And so thank you for these insights. I'm sure you'll have many more occasions to come to our studio and talk about various progress, various things that have been progressing. But thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Nitin.
That was a conversation with Vivek Lall, a technology leader in the US and of course a man of Indian origin who keeps India in his plans and his mind all the time. And of course, we'll hear more about his company and his products as India acquires the hardware from General Atomics going forward. But for the time being, that's all I have. Do keep watching StratNews Global. You know where to reach us. Your comments are important for us. And of course, do follow our YouTube channel and our social media handles. All of them are visible on the screen. You know how to reach us. So keep those comments and feedback coming. For the time being, it's goodbye.